Hi, I'm Miss Kim, and today we're going to read a story about a pumpkin patch. Before we get started, let's go over virtual classroom rules. We would go ahead and discuss each rule. I would like to include the norms or the rules that the California Pacific Charter Schools adhere to. After we discuss each rule, I like to do a chant in the tune of We Will Rock You. For example, the first one, which is Be on Time, would go like this. We will be on time. It's a fun way to get them singing, moving, and it's a great way to reinforce the rules. So let's go ahead and go over today's objective. Today we will learn how to ask and answer questions about key details. I'm going to count to three. When I count to three, you're going to unmute, read the objective, then mute again. Okay, again, I'm going to count to three. You're going to unmute, read the objective, then mute again. All right, let's try this. 1, 2, 3, unmute. Ask and answer questions about key details. Mute. Great, good job. Let's try this for the second objective, identify main topics. Again, I'm going to count to three. You're going to unmute, read the objective, and mute again. 1, 2, 3, unmute. Identify main topics. Mute. Great. And then let's do the same for the third objective. Describe connections between events in a text. 1, 2, 3. Describe connections between events in a text. Great. Those are the objectives for this lesson. All right, how many of you have been to an actual pumpkin patch? Go ahead and raise your hand. I will go ahead and choose 2 to 3 students randomly using the Class Dojo app. There's a random function in it. Before we start our lesson, I want you to go on a virtual field trip. I assigned an Ed Puzzle virtual field trip to your Google Classroom. For this video, there is a video segment, a question to read, and you will need to answer it. Okay, so video, question, answer. Video, question, answer. Everybody, repeat after me. Video, question, answer. Show me your fingers. Video, question, answer. Very good job. All right, so you have to make sure you are good listeners while you're watching these video segments because it's going to stop and it's going to ask you a question. For example, this first question you're going to come across is, have you ever been to a pumpkin patch? Then you're going to type your answer right here. Don't worry if you get distracted, you can click rewatch right here, but don't hit skip. I do want to let you know you're going to have a certain amount of time to get this done. So you may rewatch it once, but maybe twice, but try to get it on the first try. And for some of them, you will type your answer here. There will be a multiple choice where you have some certain options to choose from answers, or true if it's correct, false if it's not. And so they would go ahead and complete this virtual field trip. And when they are done, we can take a movement break by stretching, doing some stretches, or playing a Go Noodle video. And this part of the lesson I'm using as the hook, so they will be engaged in the story that we read. And I will set a timer for this portion of the lesson. All right, let's go over the first objective. Who would like to read the first objective? Go ahead and raise your hand. Again, I will go ahead and choose somebody. We are going to read a story called The Pumpkin Patch, and we're going to ask and answer questions using the 5 W's about key details. Does anyone know what the 5 W's are? Raise your hand. I will go ahead and choose some students to answer my question. Let's check if you're correct. Ta-da! Yes, you are correct. Who, what, where, when, and why. Very good. All right, so I'm going to read the pumpkin patch. The first read that I'm going to do, you are just going to listen. Okay, I want everyone to show me right now, your ears to show me that you're listening. All right, just listen as I read. If you want to read on the screen, you can go ahead and do that, but please just listen. All right, show me your ears again, and I will begin. For this first read, I will read the story and they will only listen to the text. Again, like they can read along on the screen that I have displayed this. And after this first read, I would add a movement break. And once I read the entire story, we do our movement break. I will go ahead and say, now, please open the story I assigned to you. Together, we are going to do a close reading of the text where we are going to look for key details and answer the 5 W's. You are going to use your highlighting tool to highlight the key details. So for the second read, they will have this in front of them. Uh, I will break down the text by sections. For example, I will read pages 1 and 2 of the text. So I would go to pages 1 and 2 of the text. We will read pages 1 and 2, and then I will stop and I will say, who went to the pumpkin patch? In my class, we could use a program like Kami or any other learning management system that allows the students to interact with the text. So they would have the story right in front of them, and we will highlight the answer to that question. So I would choose a student to tell me who went to the pumpkin patch, and someone will tell me Ben, Meg, and Mother went to the pumpkin patch. So then I'm going to take the highlighting tool, and together we are going to highlight Ben, Meg, and Mother. And we will go through each section of the text and answer questions from the 5 W's. After the close reading of the entire story, I would assign them to read the story on their own. In Google Classroom, they will complete an exit ticket to check for understanding. This will be done after each objective. I will use the data from each exit ticket to create small groups. While forming these small groups, I will keep in mind of any newcomers or English language learners, ELLs, where I can translate material or discuss cognates, which will assist in English language development. So for the second objective, I would most likely do this on a different day or session, depending on the time, how much time we have. Okay, let's go over the second objective. Who would like to raise their hand and read the second objective? And then I would go ahead and choose a student. We are going to answer questions by identifying main topics of the text. For number 1, I just want you to watch and listen. Okay, everyone, show me your eyes. Show me your eyes. Watch and listen. Good. Um, it is very, very important to write your name first and read the directions. Okay, so I'm going to read the directions. So I'm going to write my name and then read the directions. Answer the questions below in complete sentences. Okay. Raise your hand. What is a complete sentence? I'll choose someone to tell me the answer. Correct. So, in order to write a complete sentence, we need to rob words or steal words from the question. So, who would like to read number 1? Go ahead and raise your hand. And who are the people they are talking about in number 1? And I would randomly choose students to answer these questions. Correct. Those are the words we're going to rob. I like to use rob or steal words from the question to begin our answer in order to write a complete sentence. Okay, everyone, go ahead and take out your paper copy and write your name on the top and read the directions. I want students to practice penmanship, so I would ideally like each student to have their own hard copy in front of them, which they could take a picture of, upload it to Google Classroom, and submit it. I would use the dot cam to displays on the screen, and I would write under there so they could see. And I would start with the start of our answer. Someone would tell me they were talking about Ben, Meg, and Mother. And so I would write Ben, comma, Meg, comma, and Mother. I would be reminding them that all names start with capitals and emphasize that they need to be writing the lines correctly because it's very important for second graders to write in these lines appropriately. We will finish answering the rest of the question by having a student tell me the answer, what they did when they returned from the farm, and we will write it in the lines correctly, like I mentioned. And I would emphasize that all sentences start with capitals and end with periods because second graders tend to forget this. I like to repeat it many times. All sentences start with capitals, end with periods. And all sentences start with capitals, end with periods. I do a lot of that. I would repeat it many times, maybe using some hand gestures so that they really get it in their heads. And I will give them time to write this on their hard copy, and I will use a timer so when they finish in this given amount of time, when they finish, we can have a movement break. So after they're done, I would say, next, you are going to do number two with a partner in a breakout room. So for number two, I would put them in breakout rooms with a partner. I would intentionally pick partners that work well together or that can help each other. Before I send them off, we will go over breakout room expectations. And while they're working with their partners, I will pop into the rooms to hold them accountable and make sure they are on task. During this time, I can also provide additional support to newcomers or ELLs with any Spanish translations or cognates. False cognates are great topics for ELD and very beneficial for English language learners. I will start the timer and have the breakout room close when it is up. Then we will come back whole group, share answers, and I would provide feedback. After they will complete the rest of the worksheet on their own, either here in the class session or asynchronously on their own. And once they're done, they would go ahead and complete this exit ticket for the objective. For the third objective, I would do this on another day or a different session, again, depending on time. All right, let's go over the third objective. Who would like to read the third objective? Go ahead and raise your hand. So I would choose a student to read the objective. There is a procedure or sequence of events that happen in a story. Everyone look at this image. It says the order of events. For example, first, next, then, last. Those are some key words that show that it is showing sequence. So everyone, go ahead and take out your story and let's look at pages 3 and 4 of the text. So go ahead and take it out. Find pages 3 and 4. It starts with mother, mother. So everyone, go ahead and get that out. We would go ahead and read these pages together. And then I would say, I noticed that the first event of these pages was that Ben found a pumpkin so big that he could not pick it up. So everybody, let's get your highlighting tool and highlight Mother ran to see Ben's pumpkin. It was a very big one. It was so big, Ben could not pick it up. And then get the pen and let's go ahead and annotate it with a 1 circle, okay? And I would, since they're second graders, I would have them find sequence in chunks. For example, they would find the sequence of events in this section only. All right, after we do that, I would tell them, now I want you to find an event that happened next in groups of 3. You and your group will do the same thing. You're going to highlight and annotate with a number 2 to find the next event. So for this grouping, I would use heterogeneous grouping to make groups of 3. We will go over breakout room expectations, and then I will send them off in groups of 3, popping in while they're working. And I will set a timer, and we will come back whole group, share answers, and I would give feedback. So now that we have reviewed sequence of events, I want you to complete this graphic organizer independently. Again, depending on time, we would finish it in the session, or they could complete it asynchronously. And then when everything is done, they will complete the exit ticket for this objective independently. So we will culminate this week's activities by reviewing the objectives and looking at each activity that we completed for each standard. All right, everyone, let's review this week's objectives. So this week we learned how to ask and answer questions about key details. Let's go ahead and do the same thing like we did at the beginning of the lesson. I'm going to count to 3. You're going to unmute, read the objective, and mute again. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, unmute. Ask and answer questions about key details. Mute. Great job. Let's do the same for the second objective. 1, 2, 3, unmute. Identify main topics. Mute. Great. And let's do the same for the third objective. 1, 2, 3, describe connections between events in a text. Great job. So, who can tell me what activity we did for the first objective, ask and answer questions about key details? We would have a discussion, and I would choose students to tell me what activity we did for each of the three objectives. You all did such a great job with all of the activities for this week's stories. We will be using these same strategies for a story that we read next week. And I